many of the technology companies have given any consideration to collaborating with healthcare. One of the things that struck me at the hospital I visited, there was not a central communication system. And so it was pointed out that the healthcare personnel communicate with each other by their cell phones. So like, if there's an emergency, there is no system of getting everybody in motion for a code blue, if you will. And besides, overall, healthcare, our ministry referred to healthcare and education as the traditional sectors. But those sectors are highly technological these days. Information technology, electronic records, and all of those areas, equipment, diagnostics, are all important areas in terms of development. So I wondered if you could comment on that.
Well, these are areas that the diaspora has, over years, been engaged in, not traditional in terms of the field themselves, right? Because obviously, you know, as you have observed, technology has advanced. What I can say generally is that the government is moving to put in place to integrate its communication network, and it's currently working on an e-government platform that will utilize and deploy technology to the public sector. The hospitals being part of the public sector, I anticipate that they will be integrated in this framework, right? So that's an ongoing issue. We have the Universal Access Fund, and that fund is really the revenues that flow from telecom providers into the coffers of the government, and that fund is being used to put technology in schools. Yeah, I suspect hospitals will be included in that, right? What you will find though, I suspect, because I think your mission dealt with the rural facilities primarily, right? Most of the...
No, we were all the metropolitan hospitals as well. We were in all the hospitals. We visited all the hospitals. 22 out of 24 public hospitals.
You went into Kingston and those places?
Yeah, APH, all of them.
Alright, well, the general point is that that's something that has to be worked on, right?
We're working called Healthcare EQ. And what they're doing is they're actually, it's a software development firm, and they're doing precisely what they said. They're going into the hospitals. In fact, they were actually in Jamaica last week setting up that up. That's a new investment. What they're doing is they're going into the hospitals and they're changing the systems so that they can store all information in the cloud, right? Now, what's interesting with operations, originated from Canada, they're actually doing it here in Toronto, but they're partnered with the University of West Indies, and Jam was able to make that partnership happen. Right, so based on that partnership, we expect there to build local synergy with our hospitals, as well as hospitals back from Canada, and that we have the best systems available.
In clarification, you mentioned the various entities that are investing heavily in Jamaica, and you said that people at the middle tier are not as robust as they could, and that this is an area that members of the diaspora could invest in. Could you just clarify that for me, please?
Well, so to give you an example, your hotels, right? Do they purchase food from local farmers? Do those farmers have the capacity to be consistent in terms of supply, and so on? The answer to that is no, right? And in many instances, and it's two-dimensional. Even where they are able to source agricultural produce, the hotels may not pay at the point of purchase, and therefore the agricultural people have a difficulty in terms of cash flow, and that kills their business, right? If they were more developed and had the capacity where they could delay receipt of payments by having reserves, then you may find that the hotels may purchase more from local people, right? The next side of the thing is, because they don't do that, if the farmer enters into an arrangement with an hotel and they get a purchaser who is going to pay them upfront cash, who do you think they're going to go with? They're going to go with the person who's paying them cash. So therefore there's an issue now in relation to the supply chain. So one of the ideas by putting in the agro parks, which I didn't speak to, but I'm referencing those now because the government is going to put 8 agro parks across the island in place. It is to do exactly that. The other issue when you talk about capacity is the issue of storage, issue of market intelligence information, right? Sometimes you have a glut of products, sometimes you have a situation where they are scarce, And if you have storage facilities, then that would also allow for the streamlining of these supply to chains that require. Let us take the example of meat cuts. You know, persons who are interested in agriculture can invest in packaging facilities and abattoirs, right? There are not many abattoirs on the island that are sophisticated that can give you certain cuts, leg quarters, you name it, whatever, right? And these are spaces that persons can invest in. Give you another example: processing houses, condiments. If you look on the Grace sign there, you see a lot of condiments being portrayed, and people can actually invest in the establishment of food processing plants to international standards, where small suppliers can utilize these facilities and create more capacity. So in other words, you'll often hear that Jamaica is a sample country. You can get nice small amounts, but if there's a large buyer that wants multiple loads, sometimes it poses a challenge, and that's what I'm talking about when we talk about the capacity. And this is a middle of the road thing, where I believe that if there are synergies between persons who can invest in these entities and in these areas, they can expand the reach of the thing. In the United States, I think in the area of what you call nostalgic food, I met one Jamaican distributor in California, right? The people who dominate that market, no offense, are Koreans, not Jamaicans, right? And this is an area where there is opportunities available. So when I talk about the middle tier and the absorptive capacity, that is what I'm talking about. The ability to make the linkages between the primary producers and the end users of the product.
Shareholder of Busenko,
right,
and Executive Director of Food Port Canada. And I wanted to ask you how you would speak to Jamaican diaspora and Jamaican national investors on the devaluation of the dollar. If I invest my money in a Jamaican company, how do I protect my dollar?
One, you can put it in hard currency. There are facilities in Jamaica that allow for persons to invest in whether it's US dollars, Canadian dollars, UK dollars, right? But let me hasten to say this, that in a context of a floating dollar, right? Floating system, the dollar value is determined by demand and supply to begin with. But more importantly, it is a reflection of the productivity in the country. And it speaks more to the absence of productivity than anything else. And that is why investment and trade become very critical in terms of securing the value of your investment if you choose to hold them in Jamaican currency. Because the more competitive the country is the more foreign exchange that we're going to earn, so that there's not this pressure because of a scarcity of foreign exchange in the country. And there are people, quite frankly, who make money on speculating on the dollar. That's a fact, right? And they like to do that. And if you don't have the level of net international reserve to punish them when they do that, then your dollar will run away, right? So when people are speculating and bidding up the price of the dollar, because, you know, interestingly, if the dollar is trading at 100 and you go on the street to buy something and they're taking in $80 or less, so that means they're making a spread of $12 or $22 on this money, right? So there's a profit motive behind that. If you don't have the net international reserve and your banker, your central banker intervene to defend it, it's going to depreciate. So 2 points I'm making. One, depreciation, unfortunately, is a fact of life in a floating system, right? And we're not going to go back to a fixed system. I think that conversation is a dead one. So what do we now have to do? We have to produce and we have to become productive. And we have to make this conference one of the turning points in terms of that production thrust. And my simple thesis is this, is that Jamaicans at home and Jamaicans abroad, if they collaborate, and I'm glad you said you are from Cinco. So just like how Golden Crust is carrying bigger soft drink in their food chains, right, which is improving your bottom line at home in terms of hard currency. More Jamaican businesses need to ramp up their level of collaboration and partnership. And that is the model that we want to reinforce in this conference this year.
This press conference was quite an impressive one, especially from the point of view of JamPro, putting in place really what are the opportunities commercially in Jamaica can happen. And of course, Jamaica is playing in a huge market. This global market of competition is getting more challenging because of what is happening in the world and how money is being moved around in that direction. Having said all of that, when we go back to the diaspora aspect of it, while this is quite impressive about what business can be done, I'm looking forward to see the diasporans, especially those who are returning, and some of the other issues, the social issues, has got to be in addressing also. The issues of security, I'd like to see much more being done. There are opportunities of business point of view, but there's also opportunity of safety and all that. The opportunity of some of the rules and regulations that have been done by other countries that make it more challenging for Jamaica. So therefore, on that aspect of it, I look forward to seeing some more debates and other things that will be done in order to shore up some of Jamaica's competitiveness. Recently, some of the rules that are being done even by Canada concerns me a bit about the tariffs coming off of some of the goods, therefore making it much more competitive for Jamaica. But with Jamaicans and what they're doing here, I'm quite impressed with what I see here today.